John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Booker kept the pivot. Toss out to Green. Green again. Inferno. An 8-0 Jalen Green run.
Yeah, too much Jalen Green tonight in the Valley of the Sun with the Warriors losing tonight. They see their season end. Phoenix beats Golden State, ends up being a final of 111-96. We welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD right here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, the number 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation via the phone lines. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open as well if you want to jump in and join the conversation there. And, of course, the best YouTube chat in sports. We are live and we are here. We'll go as long as we need to over the course of the night tonight. And, yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. And, Kyle, I'm trying to tell you, are the people not seeing me right now? Because I still do not see you. Kyle Harr, we're going to bring you in right now. And let's try to figure out if we're having some technical issues here or not with the video to start the show. So if we are, then we're going to have to maybe take a timeout here.
You sound good. You sound good. But
it's blurry. It's
blurry. It's just super blurry right now. I guess a lot of people on the internet as they file out of Phoenix, but. But yeah, a little blurry. I'm sure everyone's sharing the same internet there.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and take a quick timeout and see if we can't square it away here, and then we'll come back and kind of get things rolling because I'm not seeing you on my feed at all here. So let's take a timeout and let's come back and we'll try to get everything reconnected and get this show rolling. But if you want to jump in on the phone lines, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Again, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Warriors season is over. Everybody kind of gets what they wanted. The Warriors had some drama on the positive side of things on Wednesday night down in Los Angeles. Got the win, earned themselves a right to go for the 8th seed tonight in Phoenix. With the winner to face Oklahoma City. But it was too much Jalen Green in this one for the Suns. Not enough Steph Curry. Warriors just really didn't have it from the jump as they got down immediately, much like they did on Wednesday. But there weren't the consistent fight backs, although the Warriors did fight to get back in the game and make it a game at different points, including right before halftime. They had a shot there. It was hanging in the balance, under 10 single digits, even in the fourth quarter. But the Suns, with every big shot they needed down the stretch to help prevail in this one. So quick timeout. We'll come back. 808 KNBR. We'll get to the YouTube chat as the Warriors lose this one by that final of 111-96 here on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Booker kept the pivot, toss out to Green. Green again. Inferno.
Yeah, too much Jalen Green. We're back here, Dubs OT with JD. Warriors lose, season over. 111-96 is the final in favor of the Suns. So they move on to play Oklahoma City beginning on Sunday. The Warriors season done as they win the first play-in game down in LA, but lose to the Suns tonight. So all of the question marks surrounding the Warriors in their offseason begin now as the Warriors are set to fly back home from Phoenix tomorrow around noon. And then we'll see the exit interviews and everything to take place at that point, and all of the big-time questions relating to how the Warriors can go about improving their roster will now continue to pop up. The Warriors do find themselves now in the 11th pick draft slot. I know everybody was really concerned about the Warriors maybe missing out on the potential to be in the lottery. They will be in the lottery with the loss tonight and the elimination tonight, with a chance to move up to the top 4, but most likely wind up with what would be the 11th pick in the draft that's going to be coming up on June the 23rd. Some thoughts on this game, just real quick here. The Suns got out to a similar start in this one, as did the Clippers on Wednesday night. And the Warriors did show some fight at different points, but they just could not consistently sustain anything offensively. And as we mentioned here in the first opening quickie segment, just no answer for Jalen Green. And I think Jalen Green tonight is the story of this one. He beat the Warriors in a way that, by hitting shots that I think the Warriors, for the most part, are really comfortable with him taking. A lot of, three-pointers off the dribble. I mean, he hit some crazy shots tonight to go for 36 points on 8 of 14 from three-point range. And I think, again, he did it in a way where if you're the Warriors, some of the shots he was getting, especially the three-pointers, you'd live with. And so you almost have to tip your cap to Jalen Green for knocking those shots down. I thought the Suns did a nice job against Steph Curry. They were physical. They were denying a lot of the Warriors' actions that allow for them to get good looks from three-point range and get the game into a good offensive rhythm. Story of this one, 18 three-pointers made by the Suns, 8 of them by Jalen Green. The Warriors only hit 11. And that winds up being a big-time difference in the game, as it ends up being a 21-point advantage from three in a game that the Suns end up winning by 15 by that final of 111-96. Again, Wednesday, the Warriors had a bunch of guys step up and be able to score alongside Curry. Tonight, the Warriors don't get the game that they would have needed from Curry to be able to win this game, and they didn't really get it from anybody else in a particularly efficient manner other than Brandon Podziemski. But Brandon Podziemski was pretty rough at the beginning of the game. Some a couple of bad missed shots, a couple of turnovers early in the game, and the turnovers, Warriors go for 21 on the ninth. They had 9 in the first quarter. And that set a brutal tone for what was to come. Again, despite all that, the Warriors were able to make a run to cut the lead that had been 18 at the end of the first quarter, 33-15 Phoenix then, and the Warriors had a big second quarter as they outscored the Suns 30-17. It would have been even better for Golden State had Jalen Green not hit a wild bailout corner three right at the buzzer to close out the first half there in the closing seconds. And Jalen Green ended up putting the Suns back up by 5 at 50-45 in a quarter that was largely dominated by the Warriors. But then the Suns come out immediately early in the third, and they extend the lead into double digits. And the Warriors would try to battle back, but again, just not enough offense, too many turnovers, and a career kind of night, the kind of night that Jalen Green might have one time in a playoff series. But, in a one-off game, if he has it, you're going to be going home. And that's exactly the Warriors' fate here as they lose this one 111-96. So 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. Let's get to the people tonight. As always, it's a night to vent about the game if you want. it's also a night to talk about the season as a whole, a treacherous one for the Warriors over the course of the last 3 months since the Jimmy Butler injury back on January the 19th, and then losing Steph Curry for 27 games on top of that. I think some of what had been, I think, just a maddeningly disappointing season for the Warriors was at least I'm not going to say washed away by any means, but there was, at least for 48 hours, the conversation about maybe brighter times with Steph and Draymond able to ramp it up and find one for the OGs on Wednesday night against the Clippers. But the question was going to be, could the Warriors have enough in the tank to maybe do it again against a Phoenix team that's even more stout defensively than that Clippers team, and a lot of physicality. And I thought the Warriors held their own from the physicality standpoint in terms of, kind of pushing back and fighting back. But the Suns, the better team, and the Suns are the better team throughout the regular season. They ended up winning 8 more games in the regular season compared to the Warriors. And the Suns would tell you they probably feel they should have been on into the playoffs on Tuesday when they had a lead late that they couldn't put away against the Portland Trailblazers, and the Blazers ended up claiming the 7 seed with OKC Phoenix haven't even played tonight to get to play Oklahoma City. So let's get to it. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Adam in San Jose is up first here on the phone lines before we get into the YouTube chat and the Golden State Lumber and showroom text line and all of that. What's going on, Adam? You're on the Sports Leader.
Good evening, JD. As far as the game goes, I don't have much to say. I think the right outcome happened. As much as a fan base, we wanted them to win. I think somewhere I read that we had a 2% chance of beating OKC and a 10% chance of landing the top four picks in the draft. So I think the right outcome happened. But as far as the season goes, I'm not talking about Giannis. If we get an opportunity to land Giannis, go for it. But as much as we think Kawhi Leonard would be a great fit for this team, I just don't think we can make that mistake. I did some math earlier, and Kawhi's averaged 46 games a season, minus the season that he tore his ACL in 21-22. That's being available a little over half a season for the last 6 years he's played for the Clippers. Next year, you can almost expect Curry to miss 20 to 25 games. Jimmy's out for a minimum of half the season. He's an older player, so don't expect him back until a couple weeks after the All-Star break, I'd imagine. And then with Kawhi only being available for 46 games, that just doesn't seem like it's enough to get us there. We have to get younger. We got to get younger, not through the draft, but guys like Austin Reeves, who's going to be available, the Kobe White, the Tyler Heroes, who Miami has said that everyone is tradable besides Bam. And then we have to get a deeper bench. We got to get rid of the GP2s and the lacrosse player, Pat Spencer, send them back to lacrosse. We got to get guys like Royce O'Neal or some of these guys like Peyton Pritchard, if possible, some guys that could come in and make an impact and are reliable. They could come in, make a difference immediately, whether it's defensively, offensively, get you that scoring going, fill in for Curry or the big names that we're going to have whenever they're absent. And then finally, I just have a question. What is up with the DeAnthony Melton hype? I mean, that guy can't finish around the rim to save his life. Since he's been back playing this season, he's struggled to finish at the rim almost every game. That's all.
That has been the flaw in his game, to be sure, is the lack of the ability to finish at the rim. A lot of missed layups. And, I think he's probably played in some ways maybe his price down. I think some of it initially was them maybe asking him to do a little too much in the time where Steph and Jimmy were both out. But I also think he's got to be better at finishing around the basket than he was. There were too many games where it was, 3-4 layups in a game. And so he's going to be an interesting one. If the Warriors do want to go out and try to acquire, even if it's not the Kawhis or the Giannis's, although I do think you look to those boxes potentially to be checked first. And if you look to that, and you can't get those guys, then you're talking about the guys you're talking about, younger players that maybe are available in free agency. Well, the only free agent avenue the Warriors can go is with the non-taxpayer mid-level. So if they spend the non-taxpayer mid-level on anybody other than Melton, and I still think Melton will get at least enough of a portion of that to where he's not going to be a minimum player. He was a minimum player this year, but for the Warriors to pay him more than about about $5 million a year for next year, they'd have to dip into that non-taxpayer mid-level. So basically, what I'm saying is, if you look to go get somebody else younger, Melton probably is going to be ruled out as far as somebody that would return. Certainly if it's of the Kawhi ilk or somebody there, because that would be the only real mechanism the Warriors could sign that type of player with. So it feels like it's more highly questionable as to whether Melton would return to begin with. But I don't disagree in terms of some of the young players and young prime-ish players and depth. It's funny you mentioned Royce O'Neal. I was talking to somebody about Royce O'Neal. You go back to the summer last year, and I know Kings fans get all bent out of shape when the Warriors didn't have any interest in Malik Monk. I said at the time, the Royce O'Neal reported offer where the Warriors could take on O'Neal's contract and maybe ship Kuminga to Phoenix. The Royce O'Neal one was the one that I thought actually made some sense, because he is a 3-and-D, wing player that is more in that young prime. But I think the Warriors kind of scoffed at that, thinking that they should be able to get a better level player for Kuminga a year ago, going back to the summer, than a Royce O'Neal. But Royce O'Neal is actually the exact kind of player that the Warriors could use, somebody that can defend and just hit open threes and make the right, quick decision and basketball play. There's not a lot to his game other than that, but you can win a lot of regular season games with those guys as your primary bench type guys. Again, it's gone and done now. Kuminga's with Atlanta. The Warriors got Porzingis, and I do think there's going to be a fine line needle to thread when it relates to the guys they want to bring back at them, and then also looking to be able to use the different means to be able to improve the roster. It's going to be a very, very, very tricky and difficult needle for them to thread. But that's why they get paid the big bucks. They're going to have to do it if they want to avoid being in a similar situation to the one they found themselves in this year and the year before and the year before that and the year before that since the last championship run in 2022. Great call, my man. Appreciate you. All right, Adam in San Jose, check it in here on the Sports Leader. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Dubs OT with JD right here. Warriors lose, season over, 111-96 as we roll here. And I did see you there for a second, Kyle. That's good. So you're kind of fading in and out on me, but I do think we've gotten most of the technical issues squared away here after we took that first time out. Kyle, can we confirm that at this point? That the tech issues are all good and everybody can see me and all of that.
Oh yeah, we could see you. I mean, sometimes it'll say frozen for a little bit, but then we see you again and you're moving. But a lot better than what it was. Yes.
All right, so we pushed through. We pushed through then here on this Friday night as the Warrior season ends. Let's get to the chat. And again, if you want to jump in on the phone lines, we can. And we'll get to your calls here between now and whenever we decide to end the night here. We'll keep this thing going at least till probably about 11:30, and then from there we will decide how far we want to go. Steve Kerr addressing his future a little bit, not giving away any answers, but addressing his future here in Phoenix at the podium. We'll hear that coming up on Sounds of Dubs OT between now and the end of the night. All right, LM chiming in. Pods ends the season as their second best guard, better than Melton. Yeah, Brandon Podziemski, right now, I think you would feel comfortable with him being he definitely played better down the stretch of the season through the back half of March and the early part of April. Again, kind of an up and down night for Pods, and there tends to always be up and down nature to Pods' game. Even on the nights where he plays pretty well, there are some moments where he does not play well, and it's noticeable and can be maddeningly frustrating at times. You saw that early in the game, but I'll tell you, he showed some dog in him to continue to fight and scratch and claw and take. He's done better, I think, at taking some of the bad plays and bouncing back from them and not having them completely turn it into a totally lost and failed night. He's shown, I think, some moxie in the attempt to be able to do that. Let's keep it rolling here in the chat, Kyle. Let's keep them coming. Acquiring old players is not the answer. Talking about another shot next year. If the roster is old, don't expect much. Every old player will be older on the roster. Well, Steve 700, they don't really have a choice. They are committed to Jimmy Butler coming back at this point for the next season. And Stephen Curry and Draymond Green are, Steph definitely, Draymond most likely are going to be coming back next year. So if you're committed to that, yes, you do want to get younger around that group, but you also have some veteran players that you want and I think need to keep in Porzingis and preferably Al Horford. Moses Moody comes back at some point as you start to look at next year. Podziemski, his improvement, what does it all mean in the grand scheme of things? Can he make a level up, type of move next year? I never count on guys leveling up. I say that all the time. To me, when it happens, it just kind of happens naturally. And maybe it happened naturally here at the end of the season with Podziemski getting the opportunity to kind of grow his game without necessarily having the expectation or the burden of winning. Does that translate into the box of, a team that believes that, they want to be contenders next year? We'll see. We're not going to know the answer to that till Podziemski comes back and they, roll out the balls and tip things off, coming up next October. So we shall see on that front. But the reality is they're going to have to bring back some vets, and they're probably going to have to add some vets, and they're probably going to have to add some guys that are in that young prime too. It's a balance of all of it. It's not just out with all the old guys around Steph and Draymond and Jimmy and try to bring in all these young guys because you don't necessarily have the means to be able to go do it. So you are, I think, in many ways, you are beholden and committed to, Steve's, a veteran-laden roster for next season. That's just reality. And anybody thinking that things are going to be dramatically different on that front, they're going to go after veterans in the offseason. They're going to see if they can get Kawhi. They're going to see if they can get LeBron. They're going to see if they can get Giannis. Like all of those things are, and look, they may not have a realistic shot at getting any of those three players. And then that's when they're going to have to look to be more creative. And that's when they're going to have to look to scour the league and try to find other improvements. But it's not just, it's old players and it's young players. And we'll see what they ultimately end up doing. Does the lottery ping pong balls come up GSW on May the 10th, where they can move from 11 up into the top 4? We were talking about the percentage chances of all of that. 9.4% is the Warriors' chance to move into the top 4. 2% is the Warriors' chance now to earn or luck into the number 1 overall pick. And again, the lottery's coming up on Mother's Day, May the 10th. So keep that date in mind. I think it is in the afternoon. If for those of you out celebrating with mom or your significant other or whoever, it is, I think it'll be in that brunch time on the Mother's Day Sunday.
Would be a great gift.
May the 10th. Great gift. It could be a great gift for all the moms out there to get the Warriors a top 4 pick in the draft, which the draft will take place June the 23rd. The lottery again coming up on May the 10th. And yes, it is official now. The Warriors are locked into the 11th slot, which means they have the 9.4% chance to move into the top 4. And again, for those unfamiliar with how the lottery works, they draw 4. So they do the ping pong ball draw for the top 4, and then everybody after 4 is just ranked at that point by the remaining teams that hadn't been picked in the top 4, from worst record at that point all the way to best record until you get to 14. So if the Warriors do not move into the top 4, then they will be 11 in the draft, unless somebody behind them, 12, 13, or 14 moves up. If somebody behind you moves up, then you actually can get pushed down but the likelihood of that happening is about equal to the Warriors' ability to move up. So yes, there is an outside chance that Charlotte or Miami or the Clippers pick, which is going to go to Oklahoma City, could hit and you not hit, and you move into the let's say 12, 12 or 13 range. If it happened once, you'd get to 12. If it happened a couple times, you get to 30. So there is still a literal shot that you could end up worse than 11. But most likely, the Warriors, it's about a 88 to 90% chance that the Warriors wind up with the 11th overall pick. And what do the Warriors look to do there? Because that's a position where, you talk about being able to, get younger players. And that's one opportunity that the Warriors can get a cost-effective younger player that has to have the ability to come in and contribute next year on a veteran-laden team, but preferably would also have the upside enough to maybe be a franchise building block at some point, in the years to come. To me, the Warriors must check both of those boxes with the pick that they're going to make at number 11. If it winds up being number 11, it's a different conversation. If it's 1 through 4, obviously. If they can't do that, if it's too much of a project type player, then you need to move the pick. If it's a player that, you think the upside isn't there but can help in the short term and you don't think that's the best value, then you need to move the pick. And just because you move the pick doesn't mean you're moving the pick for somebody that's an old player necessarily. You could move the pick for somebody that's of the ilk of that, mid to late 20s type of a player that's a really good player, but you'd be trading that, you'd pick, to somebody who maybe is looking for a lottery pick on, a guy with maybe more potential upside down the line, but then you get a proven commodity in the league and somebody that's in that 25 to 28 range that's done a little something in the league, which gives you a little more confidence that he'd be able to come in and contribute immediately. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. We roll on here. Dubs OT with JD. Warrior season over. If you want to talk about the game tonight, the season, and it was a treacherous one for Golden State with all the injuries, the ups and downs, mostly downs, honestly, other than the first handful of games in that stretch in December, right around Christmas, through the night that Jimmy Butler went down against the Heat on January the 19th. Tough season for Golden State overall. So if you want to reflect on the season, if you want to vent, if you want to, if you want to be sad, if you want to be emotional, if you want to be angry, tonight's the night to do all of those things as you make do with another season of Stephen Curry gone now, as he will begin next year at 38 years old and play next year at 38 and 39 toward the back end years old. All right, let's get to Duck Sauce on the phone lines next before we continue in the chat. Duck Sauce here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Duck Sauce?
JD, what's up, my guy? Long time no talk to.
Yeah, been too long, brother. Appreciate you chiming in, though.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Just a few takes on, wrapping up the season. For me, one of the glaring things is, other than certain nights where Steph is still brilliant, and which he is at times, don't get me wrong, but even when they play well, I feel like it's so obvious like how hard they have to work to score, and I just feel like we need to get some guys on the roster that can take some pressure off of Steph, especially if we're deciding to ride off into the sunset with him, which I'm personally all for. I would like to see him retire as a Warrior. But I think it's fair to respect how hard Pajemski and Guy plays, and they have had some really good moments, these last down the stretch of the season. But I still think no matter how hard they've played, if you can't see that they need more talent on this team, I don't know what else to say. This team needs more talent. So, I just think even if they don't go, even if they don't get a higher pick in the lottery, if they stick at 11, this draft is deep enough where they need to hit a home run on that pick. I do think there are players in this draft that can be really good at that pick. I don't know how close you followed the college season this year. I know you're busy because you cover more than one sport or whatnot, but like I really like LeBaron Philon Jr. out of Alabama. I think he's a rangy guard. I like his handle. I like his ability to create for others. The last thing I want to hear anymore, JD, is like this guy's a connector or this guy plays well when he's on the floor with the good players. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to that, but I want a guy who can stand on his own 2 feet regardless of who's in the game.
The reality is they're not good enough at the top end now to just have connectors added to the mix. Like you get a team full of connectors, that's great on the one hand, but the only way you can do it's kind of like the conversations we have all the time about the Giants lineup, right? Like people freak out about 5 through 8 or 6 through 9 or whatever it is. And it's like if your carriers aren't good enough or you don't have enough of them, then it doesn't really matter. Your 6 through 9. Your 6 through 9 is going to look a lot worse. And it's the same thing in the NBA. Like you can have really good, and I think the Warriors are pretty comfortable, honestly, with the guys that they have. In terms of, let's say, the 5th spot on the roster through even the 12th or the 13th spot on the roster. Like I think the Warriors like the guys they have in those roles, but they don't have enough in the top 4 on this roster, right? Like Brandon Pajemski, no disrespect to him, cannot be your 3rd best player. Like or you're going to be right where the Warriors have been. Moses Moody in a perfect world probably is not a starter. Now he is capable, I think, with certain lineups of being a starter. Again, that's no shade against him. I think you could say the same thing about Pods. Like Pods is capable of being a starter. Let's say if you have some injuries and for 20 games in a season he gets plugged in. But ideally, Moody and Pajemski both on a championship team, Moody and Pajemski both would be like 7th and 8th men. I feel like and good 7th and 8th men. And so I hear you. You can like the guys you have, but also not have enough on the top end. And again, we know Steph is Steph. And we know Jimmy is really good, although coming off the injury, I think there's some obvious question marks there, Duck Sauce. But it's who's that 3rd guy? Like the 3rd guy really it can't be Porzingis either. Like you can't put that much pressure on him with his injuries. And he did not look good tonight, by the way. I know he was dealing with the ankle. And I mean, defensively, he's really looked a lot worse in the time with the Warriors than I think people would have anticipated. I'm not sure that doesn't mean you're not keeping him or anything like that. But I do think you have to account for some of the defensive mobility liabilities to not basically planning on having too much on his plate. Again, he's the kind of guy that if he's your 4th or your 5th best player, you're feeling good. If Pajemski and Moody are your 6th and your 7th, or your 7th or your 8th best players, you're feeling pretty good. But you have to kind of fill that role as to who the 3rd and 4th best players Duck Sauce are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. Other than I still push back. Like I don't know that I'd say Pajemski or Moody are great 6th, 7th men. I think they'd more. I mean, I know we're nitpicking here. I'd say more they're like run-of-the-mill 6, like mid-tier 6th, 7th men. But I just think we need more guys who can create for other people, JD, just to take some pressure off Steph, And I kind of agree with the caller earlier. I was higher on Melton to start the season, but he does struggle around the rim, man. Like he's not as good of an athlete as I thought he was. I do think he has value defensively because he can guard multiple positions, but honestly, he can guard multiple positions because he's lanky, and he's smart defensively. It's not because he's a good athlete, because he's not a good athlete, to be honest with you. I think he's a step slow. So anyway, man, I know I've talked a lot here, so and good to talk to you, JD. I appreciate all your hard work covering the team this year, and shout out to Kyle as well for his hard work. So I'll talk to you guys some other time, man.
Duck Sauce, appreciate you, man. And we'll have some stuff coming up in the offseason as well as the big news breaks. We'll try to hit all the big key times from the exit interviews next week. within the next few days. I think those are going to be largely Monday. I know the player interviews may wind up being Sunday or Monday. I think, Dunleavy and Steve Kerr likely to meet on Monday as well. So we'll be all over that and the lottery and the draft and all that. So we'll have a lot of specials coming up here, but we appreciate you taking the time, and it's why we're here to chop it up and to throw things at the wall and figure out, how this team has the potential to improve. So thanks, Duck Sauce. Let's pepper in a couple of chats here. We'll continue on the phone lines. We did have our little technical snafu at the beginning of the show, so we burned a quick break. So we don't need to take another break, I think, at least until pretty close to the top of the 11 o'clock hour or 11 o'clock. So we're going to try to make good on that here on Dubs OT. As the Warrior season is over, the Suns do win tonight, 111-96. We're here. We're talking about it again. Anywhere you want to take it, if you want to take it the direction of tonight, the season as a whole, or how this team improves, all of those things are on the board here. And again, we're here for you. But Kyle, let's get a couple of chats here before we go back to the phones. And let me bring you back up here as you're still cutting in and out on me, but it's all good. As long as the people can see you, we're good. Come on. Who really wanted to see Steph go home in the first round? No one. Well, it works out how it works out. And I kind of joked at the beginning of the show, right? Everybody kind of got what they wanted. I know a lot of people wanted the ability to move up in the lottery. And so you get that if that's something that was important to you now because the Warriors get eliminated. But you also got one more night of thrills. I think is probably how we're gonna end up categorizing what Wednesday night in the grand scheme of things wound up being. It didn't make the Warriors season any more palatable. Honestly, it was just something kind of fun to be able to talk about for 48 hours and just understand that Steph and Draymond still have the ability to play at a high level in certain stretches and help this team win games. So I think it wound up being more of the logical heads prevail. Nobody else got hurt in a meaningful way here with the Warriors playing these extra 2 games. I know that was a concern had they gone on to OKC, that you would not want to see a Steph or a Draymond or somebody have some kind of significant injury a la Jimmy, or as we saw in other years with Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. You don't want to see that. And if you didn't want to see Steph go out in the first round against the defending champs, you won't have to now see it. That will be saved for the Phoenix Suns, who make the playoffs, and they should be commended. I mean, the Suns, they got out of the Kevin Durant business and improved themselves. They got out of, and they're not completely out of, obviously, the financial mess that they had been in. But Jalen Green won them a game that got them in the playoffs tonight. And they still do have Devin Booker, and they became a try-hard team with Jordan Ott. Like, they went from being kind of a cruise control, too cool for school team with KD that a year ago didn't even make the play-in tournament. That's how bad it got a year ago for the Suns, to being a try-hard team, a hustle team, a defensive team, a physicality team with Dylan Brooks coming in as well. And so I know everybody in the Bay isn't necessarily the biggest fan of Dylan Brooks, but the dude can help change the culture of teams for the better in going from bad to good. It's basically the third team that he's helped go from bad to good in this decade. Now it runs its course, and we saw Houston, it ran its course, and they're in the KD business. And are they even better for it? Not necessarily. They went out in the first round last year. I think because they're going to play the Lakers, they're going to get out of the first round this year. They got a lucky draw. Had they found themselves playing Denver or Denver, basically, they'd be going home pretty quick, fast, and in a hurry themselves. But again, I give the Suns a lot of credit for going from where they were to being a playoff team this year. And again, going from the Suns went from a gutless team a year ago, and they got progressively more gutless as Durant was around longer, which it's funny how that kind of tends to happen. And now to a team that actually has some guts and has some a little something to them. So we'll see. They're still going to get beat by OKC like anybody else would have. But again, they earned the right with winning the 45 games in the regular season to play in the playoffs. They were significantly better than the Warriors after the Warriors lost Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry. So yeah, no, you will not have to watch Steph go home if you're a Warrior fan in that first round. All right, let's get two more here quickly. Listening on the radio, had to chime in real quick. Y'all wrong about Pods. He proved he's an NBA starter. He can be. Again, I don't think he is a bona fide NBA starter. No, I don't think he is on a winning team. I don't think he's proven that. But I do like Pods more than most, Chris, and it's all good. You can come down my road on that. I think Pods is more of a bona fide rotation player, top 7, 8, on a good team, 6 to 8. He definitely is somebody who can play 25 minutes a night. I don't think he's asserted himself to the point where he's a starting caliber player on a winning team, unless that team is pretty stacked with stars at the other position. Like, to me, you'd have to have 2 all-stars and 2 other really good players for him to be a capable night in, night out starter. You'd have to be a more talented team than the Warriors are top to bottom right now. I will say that, but he did improve as the season went on, and especially down the stretch. I think whether he's truly become that guy, Chris, we're going to find out next season. I'm not saying he's ever and I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying he can never get to that level. I think he can get to that level, but I disagree with you that he's proved it as of right now. I do not think he's proved it. He's proved that he can be a starter some of the time. Injury riddled team that has guys out, and he has to step in for a stretch and be a starter. But I still think less is more a little bit as it relates to Pods. But he's definitely not a bad player. Nobody can say this team didn't win a meaningful game, says Drew Down. They won one on Wednesday. That is true. They did win one on Wednesday, and I know people were kind of joking on social media, like, JD, you keep talking about the Warriors not having anything left in the tank. Well, how could the tank be so empty if they've only played one meaningful game in the last 3 months? But yeah, the non-meaningful games take a toll as well, especially with some aging players like Draymond Green. But yeah, it will be a fond memory in my mind. What happened on Wednesday in LA is a fond memory in an otherwise pretty dreadful season from hell, I would say, for the Golden State Warriors, considering some of the expectations coming in. All right, one more before we get back to the phones. Kyle, let's go to... Let's see. Here we go. Trailing by 10 points nearly the whole game. Butler and Moody would sure as hell made the push to win this one. Well, we'll never know. We'll never know. And again, the Warriors were hanging around tonight, I thought, longer than they probably should have. And if they had any of the offensive juice that they showed on Wednesday night, they would have had a chance to really put some pressure on Phoenix down the stretch. And Phoenix has struggled in some of these game situations at executing down the stretch. But again, we'll never know. It doesn't matter. The Suns are a better defensive team than the Clippers, and they prevented the Warriors from being in a rhythm. And so you give them credit for that. I mean, they forced the Warriors, I thought, to look bad offensively, and the Warriors are already a team that does not have the offensive prowess in terms of the guys that are available to them currently on a lot of nights to get the job done. They sure as hell don't on nights where Steph's going to only go for 17 and be 4 for 16 shooting the ball. Like that's just the way it is. And again, you didn't have the others come through. We talked about 4, 5, 6 other players on Wednesday that came through, from Gee to Porzingis to Horford to Podziemski. And tonight it was really only Podziemski who did it efficiently, although he had the 4 turnovers and didn't play particularly well early in the game. Melton 5 for 10, but he misses 3 or 4 layups tonight, and ends up with kind of a hollow 16 points. So if the Warriors had any of the offensive juice from Wednesday, maybe there would have been some action. But what did the Warriors do on Wednesday that they didn't do tonight? They hit the 3 ball. And the Suns were taking the 3 ball away, really contesting and taking the Warriors out of their rhythm, by which they get a lot of their good looks from 3 and their rhythm looks. They were keeping Steph kind of flustered and frustrated. Like, they did a nice job on Steph and through the Warriors system at slowing him down. And it ends up 11 for 33 for Golden State and 18 of 49 with Jalen Green. I mean, there was a point where Jalen Green had hit as many threes as the Warriors. When he had hit, I think he had 8 and the Warriors had 8 at one point. before the Warriors ended up hitting a few down the stretch there as the game cosmetically wound up being 111-96 in terms of the final. All right, one more. And then we'll get to the phones. There's a reason Jalen got shipped too. He was a no-show last year against us in the playoffs. He did have the one big game, Rusty. He had one big game. Was it game 5 or game 2? Might have been 2 good games, if I remember, in that series. He was bad in the games that Houston lost, but he was really good in at least one, if not 2
Yeah,
games.
I think it was game 5, but I think Ime Udoka didn't even close with him in a lot of those games just because he was that bad.
Jalen Green is the kind of player that in a playoff series, he's going to have one spectacular game, maybe 2. And he's also going to have, if the series goes 6 or 7, 4 or 5 bad games where he takes bad shots and, he kind of shoots you out of the game. That's just the player that he's been in his NBA career to this point. We did see that last year in the playoff series. And, I think OKC's got more athletes to be able to kind of handle him than certainly the Warriors do. But tonight was the night that was one of the good games out of, let's say, 5 or 6. And if it's in a one-off elimination situation, then you're going home. I mean, he gets his revenge on the Warriors for sending him home a year ago. He and Dylan get their revenge with a new team in Phoenix and sending the Warriors home in the play-in tournament. All right, let's get to the phones. Aaron in Oakland is next. We'll get to Aaron here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Aaron?
Hey, JD. Thanks for having me on. How's your night going?
Yeah, so far so good, man. We're making the best of it here, fighting through some of the tech issues and just tying a bow on this season.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so, as a diehard Warriors fan, I'm always, I have one foot in fantasy that every single year is our year. And then I have one foot in, okay, what's actually going to happen, And so as I think about Steph Curry's relationship with ownership on this team, right? He has transformed the Warriors dynasty. When he came to Oakland in 2009, we were, not worth that much as a team. And now we're in 2026 and we got this new stadium, right? So that relationship between Steph and ownership, it reminds me, and not saying the Lakers weren't very successful before Kobe got there, but I remember Kobe's last few years where it was kind of like, all right, we're going to set Kobe up for success in lieu of moving on and trading assets for draft picks, right? So I know that, right? Like, I know Steph Curry is coming back next year. I know Draymond Green is coming back next year. I know they are running the pick and roll. I know what the Warriors offense is going to look like because of that loyalty. This is the Steph Curry show until Steph Curry is not in the NBA anymore. And I'm okay with that because Steph is still so good. And so I'm thinking about next year and I'm just thinking, okay.
Sure.
So Steph, this is Steph's show. What does Steph want to do? Steph wants to win a ring. We know that, right? So I know that, and I'm thinking, okay, how are we going to do that next year? Look at the contracts, look at the draft picks. What are we going to do? So all I can hope for is that we roll out a starting lineup next year where we have I assume it's going to go Curry, Moody, Butler, Green. We'll see if we re-sign Porzingis or what we do with that 5th spot. But I know and I hope those 4 guys are going to be out on the floor come the end of next season going into the playoffs. And a part of me believes that all 4 of those guys on the court and maybe a really good center who just fits in really well with our offense could make a playoff push. And I'm going to choose to believe that we are going to somehow be contenders next year, because I know that's what that is what we're going to do. So it doesn't matter what I think. I have to believe that we're going to make it that way, you know?
And Aaron, the other part of it too is, I mean, maybe you can't contend for a championship, but it's the ability to play the meaningful games and be a team that's not going home, during this week. It's being able to get back to being a team that's going to get in to the playoffs and also have the ability to at least win a series, to where you're, giving yourself a chance maybe in a second round series to go up against somebody. And then maybe you can get on a little bit of a run if things gel together, even if it proves, look, there's a lot of there aren't going to be a lot of teams that are going to be beating OKC or San Antonio in the next few years. That's just the reality in terms of, conference finals and who's going to be getting to the NBA finals and all of that. Maybe Denver ekes in there right now. Maybe there's another team that improves to the point where they can be in that conversation. So to me, it's at a minimum of, and I go back to what Steph has said himself, it's playing meaningful basketball. And meaningful basketball is not fighting for the final, 30 games of the season to avoid the play-in tournament. It's get into that top 6, give yourself a chance to win a series, and then let the chips kind of fall where they may. If you get beat by a Denver or San Antonio or an OKC at that point, then so be it. But it can't be, I think, to your point, as it relates to what Steph wants, it can't be what it's been for them, basically 50% here of these last 4 years, right? You've got 2 years where they've been able to do it in 23 and 25, and you've got 2 years where they go out as the 10 seed in the play-in tournament. These last 4 years since the title run, it's 2 years out as the 10 seed in the play-in, and it's 2 years where they've actually been able to get into that first round series and compete and beat somebody and believe that they have a chance in a second series.
Right. I totally, that is a really sane look at things, right? But I am thinking as delusionally as a player on the team is thinking, right? Like, every player on that team wants to win a ring. Like, I think you could say that pretty much about every player on every team. But I think with the Warriors championship pedigree, Draymond and Steph go into every year thinking, like, we might have a chance if we can position ourselves just right. And so, do I know that that's not likely? Of course I do. But I choose to think delusionally. And if I can just end on this, my very delusional dream is that they figure out a way to win the finals next year, and Dre, Steph, and Steve hold a press conference, and they all retire right then and there. So that's
that
my
would be
dream.
something.
I'm gonna hold on to it until I see it not come true, and then if and when that happens, I will figure it out then. So,
Aaron, thanks for the call, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Aaron in Oakland. From Aaron in Oakland, let's go to our buddy Danny in Vancouver, who is up next here. Dubs OT, Friday night, season over. Suns are going on to face the Thunder. Warriors are going home. But we're here. We're talking about it on these Sports Center. What's going on, Danny?
Hey, JD. Good evening. Well, I don't have too many thoughts on the game tonight. Yeah, not much to be said.
Out of gas and overmatched.
That's it.
Out of gas and overmatched. It's
yes, yeah. I thought that bailout 3 by Green at the end of the first half was kind of a bad sign. You get those certain plays that just seem like that. Just they closed it to 4, and then I think that's 3. But
they closed it to 2. Danny, if it's 2 at halftime, as poorly as they played, you're thinking they've got a great shot in the second half. But 5 felt like it was a little demoralizing. And I think the most demoralizing part of the whole night was just Jalen Green hitting 8 threes. I think the Warriors would live with Jalen Green taking 14 threes any night of the week. But again, he does have games where he hits them. And, they're few and far between, but no, but he does have them. And maybe it's one, like I said, out of 5 or 6 in a playoff series, but tonight was one of the nights it hit in the play-in, and, you tip your cap to him, and it's the reason the Warriors are going home.
Well, I was texting a friend and we were both cursing Green because I was looking up. He was only 31% 3-point shooter during the year, and at one point, I mean, he was 7 for 12, I think, and then the bailout three, and then that 30, when he hit one way back, just like an excuse me three. But good for him.
It was his night.
They ran him out.
It was his night. That's it.
Yeah, they ran him out of Houston, but we'll see. I agree with your assessment of him.
I'll give you another one here real quick, Danny. He was also 8 for 8 on two. He was also 6 for 6 on twos. So he was 8 of 14 on threes, but he was also 6 for 6 on twos. So he played exceptionally well.
Yeah, well, good for him. I mean, good for him. I mean, they're going to get smoked by OKC. We know that, but maybe they'll win a game. Yeah, I'm regarding Pods. I think I agree with your assessment of him. I think that if he was a stock, you would have made money on him for sure this year. I was thinking if he'd had a really big game tonight and the Warriors had won, I think his stock would have exploded. Like he would have been really, even though they would have gotten departed in 4 or 5 games against OKC, but I thought that would really put him in good standing for next year. But we'll see, and he's going to get a raise, and he deserves it. I think he's played well the last third of the season, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's just I'm not going to make too many categorical statements right now. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm still optimistic about next year once we get everyone back. There's going to be we're going to see how we're going to do in the draft and see if we can pull off any trades. But did you see, by the way, did you think, JD, that it seemed to be that, and I don't know, I don't want him to leave, but did it seem like Kerr was kind of saying goodbye at the end there? Did you watch that when he was hugging Dre and Steph at the end? What do you think of that?
I did, and he addressed it. Steph was asked about it in the post game, and Steph kind of he kind of gave a little smirk and said he left that Steve had left the door open to return. So it wasn't like a final goodbye, even though I think some may have interpreted it as that. And Steve will play some of the cuts. He sounded like somebody that honestly has to think about whether he wants to come back. I mean, it really does seem like he is a little, and he said he wasn't going to go anywhere else for next year, but it does seem like he needs to, he seems a little like he might be burned out honestly, and wants to maybe take a little time to see if he truly wants to come back and to see, at what cost. If he's going to take a lot of flack, we don't know the internal flack and debates and arguments that happen, between maybe ownership and the way that he's coached the team. I know sometimes a lot of that gets cast as like fan stuff in terms of, he should be doing this or should be doing that. The one thing that people seem to, forget at times about Joe Lacob, as great an owner as he's been for a number of different reasons and willing to spend and building the getting Chase Center built and all those kinds of things. From a basketball standpoint, like Joe Lacob is basically just a fan. And so he kind of goes through the roller coasters of, players he likes, nights he's happy with the coaching staff, nights he's not. And I think he is patient and intelligent enough to not have things kind of boil over as regularly as they might with just a common fan, or as much as, another owner might. Like we see other owners basically, have favorite players and get frustrated with, games that he feels should be won that are lost and reasons why, and make rash decisions. Lacob's never been one to do that, thankfully, I think, for Warrior fans. But only they know, and only Steve knows what the toll has been internally as to some of the frustrations that have come from the injuries and the losses. And so I will say this, and we'll play the clip coming up here, but it did seem, and kind of looking at some of it, as if he's somebody that has a decision still ahead of him and needs to kind of clear his head and decide, one, if he wants to come back, but also have the internal discussions with ownership to whether, he's going to be appreciated, I think, if he comes back, and whether maybe he's going to have a little more input in how things operate on a day in, day out basis than maybe he's had at different points. So I think there's more to be gleaned from where Steve Kerr sits as it relates to next year, and definitely not a foregone conclusion. And I don't think it's felt that way for a while, but it's definitely not a foregone conclusion that he is going to come back, as much as everybody, I think, has assumed that he, and myself included, is more likely than not going to come back.
Interesting. I hope he comes. I'm a huge Steve Kerr fan. I've always been, not just because he's a great coach, but he's a really good guy. I think he's got a lot of integrity.
Right.
I think his coaching and his record, his achievements are unimpeachable. And I'll be sad if he's gone. I wish him all the best if he goes. But I'm not going to. No way I would blame this season on him. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. I think to say that he could have got more out of him. So it'll be interesting. I wanted to just say,
guys have developed too. Pajemski's developed, Guy's developed, like Moody's continued to develop. Like, it's not as if that developmental knock is necessarily been true. Anyway, go ahead. Final point for you there.
I'll let you. I just wanted to thank you for everything this year, JD. It's been an absolute pleasure. Your insight and your knowledge of the game and your observations. You're such a pro, and I just want to tell you, it's been great. There's been a lot of unfortunate nights where it's been tough. I know, kind of to deal with the post game after some of those losses, but it's great. It's almost, to me, I joke, it's like therapy. It's like you're listening to someone, and some of the great comments on the YouTube chat. But thank you so much, and I'll look forward to. I'll be listening next if there's a Dubs weekend show and
for us.
News comes.
Yeah. Stay
thank you
tuned
so much, JD. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Danny. No, I appreciate it. And we'll be back at Harmonic in Thrive City having a beer in no time coming up. We're only 6 months away. Actually, we'll be there for the draft, and we'll be there at some of the other big moments. But look, the Warriors are not the Warriors without Steve Kerr. And there's no question that's going to be, I think, the number one thing that's going to have to be figured out. I mean, if the Warriors are finding a new coach, then all bets are off in terms of everything else kind of being, as it has been with Steph and with Draymond. So we shall see how it all plays out with the Warriors from there. Steph wants him to come back. Draymond wants him to come back. But I appreciate the kind words as well, Danny. The people on this show and the YouTube chat and the callers and the texters and everybody. Those are the people that make this thing go. It really is for you all, and I'm blessed to be doing it. You never know what kind of team you're going to get to cover and talk about. I've in covering the NFL for as long as I have, and covering the NBA for as long as I have. I've covered teams that have been the worst team in the league and done shows, and I've covered teams that have won the NBA championship and done post-game shows on those teams as well. And so you get to see a little bit of everything if you hang in the game long enough, honestly. But it's been a pleasure to be along for the ride. And again, we'll October will be here before you know it, but the Warriors have a bunch of different things they got to sort out before October. Who's the coach going to be? Where's their lottery pick going to wind up? How do they address free agency? Who's coming back? Who's not? How can they try to get younger while also keeping some of the older players that have been contributors? Like all those same old story type conversations. And we'll be here for all of the conversation. You're listening to KMBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, Cumulus Media Station. We're into the 11 o'clock hour here, and we appreciate everybody. We've been able to go commercial free for the last hour, thanks to our little technical glitch at the beginning of the show. So let's keep it going on the phones as we come to you here from Phoenix in the aftermath of the Suns' victory, 111-96 over the Warriors to end the Warriors season. All right, back to the phones. Let's go to Drew Down out in Tracy here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Drew Down?
What's up, JD? What's up, Kyle? Yeah, man. Unfortunate, finish tonight. Especially after the Wednesday game. That's kind of how sports goes, right? You got the highest of highs. I want to say the lowest of lows, but I feel like the clock struck 12 on the Warriors and Thin Kerrella So, it is what it is. But yeah, shout out you guys for, for putting on this thing. Maybe not 82 games, 78, whatever the number was.
Yeah.
Shout out the
Yeah.
chat, everybody, who pulls up, and, appreciate you guys letting me come on stream a couple of times. I'm sure that Kyle was probably sweating, thinking I was going to do something crazy. So.
No, that was fun, Drew.
Cool.
We appreciate that's something we're bringing back next year. We're going to do a little more of that from time to time. I like that. Kyle was a little nervous about it, but you showed out well for everybody else that's going to come after you, that has the courage to step up and step in the room like that. So you're a pioneer, Drew, on that front.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, tell Kyle put his big boy pants on. Everything will be fine. I got 3 questions. Heading into the offseason. Kristaps Porzingis, do they re-sign him? What does that contract look like? Number 2, Steve Kerr. I always felt like he would come back for another year, but, who knows? Does he come back? What do they do, in that situation? And then number 3 is that draft pick. Depending on where it falls, do they move up? Do they package that pick and somebody, to try to, have an upgrade? So I'm just curious to see, those 2 things, and I think it'll be an interesting offseason. But appreciate you guys.
What do you, Drew? What do you think?
I'm here.
What do you think the right number? What do you think the right number is for Porzingis?
I know
it's 1 in 10, 1 in 15. I feel like it's about 1 in 15.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because after the Wednesday game, you're like, all right, man, give this man 2 and 40, but then, after the night, it's like, maybe 1 for 10. But in my opinion, I think maybe give him a 2-year deal with the player option. And, in that 10, ideally 10, but does it maybe gets closer to 20? I think somewhere in that range, hopefully they find a middle ground. And it seems like he appreciates Rick Celebrini. I mean, case study, Otto Porter Jr., anybody? Yeah,
No
so hopefully, hopefully that, plays a factor, and he could be, I don't expect him to play 80 games next year, but if they re-sign him, can he give you, somewhere 60-ish games? And, so we'll see. I think we're, go ahead, Jay.
50 to 55 is probably 55 is probably the perfect number. That's like two-thirds of the season. I think the number's 2, and I think you're right. It's a 2 and 30, and it's so basically 2 and 30, so 15 a year. And I think give him the player option so he knows he can get the 30. And in the worst case scenario for him, he would get the 30. And for the Warriors, that would be at an expiring, $15 million. Even if he wound up being a player that couldn't play at all, it would be an expiring $15 million that you could put, towards something else. I think you might have to do the player option to ensure that he comes back, because he would obviously he would want the ability to make, opt out and make more if he plays well and proves himself to be healthy. If not, he'd want to have the safety net of knowing that he'd get another year of pay, especially if his career is kind of, at that point, at a point where maybe he's a minimum player, moving forward, or can't be healthy enough to continue really to be in the league. So I think that's probably the fair range, 2 and 25 to 30. I would say with the player option in the second year, as I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, Al Horford, I think he, can play 1 more year. I don't know what that does for Quentin Post. I mean, he had a nice rookie year, but this year he really, his shot was really up and down, and it seemed like when that shot wasn't going, it seemed like he lost confidence, and it kind of affected, the rest of his game. So interesting to see what they do with him, with Bassey, and kind of that, that back end of the roster a little bit, especially, with Moody going to be out for the year probably, and Butler missing a lot of the time. So, I'm optimistic. Are we going to be a, bona fide title contender? Probably not, but hey, give me a decent team and get my guys step to the playoffs. So appreciate you guys, man. Have a great night. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, no, thanks, Drew Dan. And I think that the key is, like we were talking about earlier, can they get back to being more like it was last year, or in 23, where they're competitive, they're able to win a round, and then you see what you got in the second round versus, again, a season where you wind up as the 10 seed and end up, going home in this middle week of April. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Back to the chat here, Kyle. And let's get a couple of chats, then we'll take a timeout, and then we'll come back and play some sound here. They pushed as far as they could. That from Ed Botello. Appreciate that. Joke's on you. I think this is the best outcome. Practice, no more mileage. Front office sees what they need. Lottery pick. Kerr remembers the last game and stays. Best results. Yeah, I do think in a weird way, you get a little something out of Wednesday, but it doesn't end up screwing up the potential for the ability to get that lottery pick, which you're going to have now, whether it's 11. Again, basically a 90% chance of being 11, basically a 9% chance of moving into the top 4 with a 2% chance of being number 1 overall. But even at 11, in a pretty deep draft, you have the ability to get a pretty good player and somebody that could have the potential upside to maybe be a future building block. But I think more importantly, you get somebody that could come in and have the ability to be impactful and complementary and infuse some youthful energy that this team desperately, I think, needs, to get through not only the 82 games, but just have energy on nights like tonight where, the defense and the physicality of the Suns just took the Warriors completely out of their rhythm. You need athletes and guys that can kind of fight back and combat that. Somebody that's got a little wild card to their game a little bit. And the Warriors just have not had enough of those guys as time has gone on. Kuminga was maybe supposed to be one of them, but obviously that never really ultimately panned out. Wednesday night's game gave us what we wanted. That from Reed the Steed chiming in here. Let's keep it going. The most fluke shooting performance the doctor has ever witnessed. Our guy, Dr. P, Jalen Green is not that guy. He'll never perform that well again. He will. He's had games like that before. Let's keep it a buck. I mean, Jalen Green's had games like that before in his NBA career. He had a playoff game against the Warriors last year where he played similarly. And the Warriors got beat in that game. Now, the difference was, as we talked about earlier, he also had 5 playoff games in a 7-game series where he's pretty terrible, and a big part of the reason why the Warriors were able to win that series. But, again, you tip your cap to a guy when he does the work and plays well. Rich Ray, I think we have a great foundation and figured out Pods and KP. Al returns, hopefully. Yeah, I think Al's going to have to – that's where I do think the other night – It bodes well in a sense for, Porzingis got to see Draymond and Steph when Draymond and Steph were kind of at the peak ability to be locked in the 2-man game and all that. And Horford got to see a little bit of that early in the year and in that one game. So it being a part of that when it's going down, I think it bodes well for the ability for guys to maybe want to return. Horford's got the $6 million player option for the second year of that mid-level exception contract that he signed back right when training camp started, because nobody could sign until training camp started, if you recall, because Kuminga was holding everything up and Aaron Turner holding everything up. But yeah, so we'll see. I think, Horford came very close to retiring last year. And so I think he's going to have to get, with his wife and family and make a decision as to what's going to be best for him. Again, Al Horford does not need to come back necessarily for anybody. Dude's won a title. Dude's probably a future Hall of Famer himself at this point, and he's going to be 40 in June. So Al Horford can do whatever the heck Al Horford wants. But the one thing I do know, even if you believe the Warriors need to get younger and more dynamic and more athletic, you still want Al Horford to come back next year if you're the Golden State Warriors. So I think they're hoping he does. And we'll see. Andis Brown chiming in. Porzingis only played 15 minutes, wondering if he was banged up for sure. He was questionable coming into the game. And actually, he did an early warm-up. I was down on the floor. He did his early warm-up right before Steph came out. So this would have been a little bit before 6 o'clock. And he was he went through his pregame warmup, and there was some question as to whether he was going to be able to play. He was on the injury report as questionable. He went through the workout and did not look good, did not look comfortable, looked like the ankle was really bothering him. And I think tonight was one of those where, hey, it's an elimination game. I'm going to fight and try to play through it. And, if I can't be effective, at least I gave it a shot. And I think that was the mentality for Porzingis, and he clearly was compromised tonight. He tried to grind it out. He couldn't. The Suns really took advantage, I thought, of his lack of mobility. And again, if he's not hitting shots, he did hit some shots there in the third quarter at the beginning. But I think it became a situation where Steve had basically said, hey, can you give me the first 5-6 minutes of each half? And if you can, and maybe another little 2-3 minute stretch, to spell somebody, because I'm only going to play 8 guys again after playing 8 on Wednesday. I asked Steve pregame, can you afford to play 8 again? And do you trust others to be able to get in the game if need be? And Kurt basically didn't play anybody other than the 8 until everybody came out when the game was decided in the final minute. And Richard and Bassey and Pat Spencer and Seth Curry ended up getting into the game then, but it was the same 8. But yeah, Porzingis was. I actually thought there was a chance, even though everybody was expecting Porzingis to play, I thought there was a chance he was going to go through and get with Rick Celebrini after he went through the warm up, because he looked so compromised that he was going to say he wasn't going to be able to go. But he did ultimately go. But yeah, he was definitely banged up with the ankle. And somebody that had the Warriors won tonight somehow, I don't think there was any chance in hell he was going to be playing on Sunday in OKC if it had played out a different way. All right, let's do a couple of more here, Kyle, and then we'll take a timeout. I'll take Draymond over Dunleavy. What has Dunleavy done for the franchise? Well, I don't think it's Draymond or Dunleavy, or Draymond versus Dunleavy. I don't think anybody's necessarily painting it as that. But yeah, we shall see in terms of Kyle, how did that come up? What was the context of that? I'll take Draymond over Dunleavy. What has Dunleavy done for the franchise? What was that all about? What was the conversation relating back to that?
I'm not sure if there was. I think there's maybe just a larger outlook. I mean, we've had comments before that have shared their frustration about Dunleavy, and now that Draymond's future with the team is up in question with his player option, I think it's more that. I don't think there was any kind of context though.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just curious as to maybe if there was. I mean, I don't think Dunleavy's not going anywhere. I mean, do people really think Dunleavy has done this terrible job? I mean, he's beholden to his owners' desires and demands. And I'll tell you this: if you look at the picks that he's made, Podziemski's turned into a fine player. I think he would have had Kuminga shipped out of town far before he ultimately was, had he had the full ability to be able to do it. I mean, him and Steve Kerr were in lockstep on Kuminga. And again, we were talking about the whole Royce O'Neal thing earlier. Like, I mean, you go back and check the tape in the summer. Like, I would have taken Royce O'Neal for Kuminga. Now, again, Joe Lacob didn't want to. Oh, we're trading this top prospect for a 3-and-D wing role player that didn't have a great year the year before. But Royce O'Neal. I mean, the Warriors could have used. Warriors could use some Royce O'Neals, to be honest. Now, you could make the case, are they good enough in other areas to have a guy like that play meaningful minutes? But he's a rotation player in the NBA and has been for 6-7 years at this point. So, but yeah, I mean, Dunleavy doesn't have the autonomy. I don't think that other, presidents of basketball operations and general managers necessarily have. But he ain't going anywhere. Like, what has he failed on? I mean, the inability to move Kuminga sooner. He went and got Jimmy Butler. it isn't his fault Jimmy got hurt. He got Jimmy Butler for pennies on the dollar because Jimmy Butler tanked his value. He got the Suns to agree to a KD deal before they went and got Jimmy Butler, and then KD didn't want to come back. I mean, it happens. KD had the power. So you move on and you wind up getting Jimmy at that particular point in time. Dunleavy's done a good job, writes Chris Cash. Pods would be a lottery pick and a redraft of his draft. Post and Richard are good second round pick. I agree with you, Chris. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Like, I think Dunleavy's done fine. Like, Dunleavy isn't like, I don't look at Dunleavy's resume and say he's done even a poor job. Again, especially under some, shall we call them unique circumstances surrounding the input of ownership and just the collaborative nature of the way that the Warriors operate. All right, let's do a couple of more here. Dubs OT with JD. Warriors lose, by the way, season over. We know that. 111-96 was the final. Our sounds of Dubs OT coming up. We'll hear from Steve Kerr. We'll hear from the key players, Steph, Draymond, in the post-game press conference here from, what is it? Mortgage Matchup Center. This place has had so many names over the years. I put it on my IG story as America West Arena. Kyle, that was before your time. That was the original name of this building when it opened back in 1992. That was you know what America West is?
Oh man,
or was?
No clue.
Do you even know?
An airline?
Do you even know, Kyle?
An airline.
It was an airline. Did you have help? Did somebody help you, Kyle?
No, that I actually guessed that.
It was an airline. Yes, it was an airline, and then it became, I think, the airline became U.S. Airways, if I remember correctly, and then it became the U.S. Airways Arena, and then it was a bunch of other stuff, Footprint and Talking Stick, and I mean know your Phoenix Arena names, but yeah, it's been a lot of different things over the three plus decades that it's now been in existence. But yeah, back in the day when Charles Barkley was winning MVPs, it was the America West Arena. Let's do one more. Curry was obviously hurting. Same outcome as last year. Injuries are the only thing that can prevent our beloved Warriors from winning every year. Yeah, the one thing that I do think is a blessing in disguise is the fact that I don't know that it would have been good for anybody had Steph had to go up against that Thunder defense and athleticism for even 4 games. Like, and we ran through the number of guys who have gotten hurt playing against OKC through the last 2 years. And that would have been something where I think everybody, had the Warriors won tonight, would have been holding their breath throughout the course of that entire series, thinking, don't end up with a season ending, from Halliburton to Gordon to Reeves and Luka got hurt against OKC. Like, you got to be built and put together and healthy going in. I think in some of those matchups. So, all right, let's you know what, Kyle, let's just do 2 or 3 more. We'll come back. We'll go to about 11:54 or so here, and we'll get our sounds at Dubs OT and then wrap it up in the chat at that point. But we're to the point where let's just do 2 or 3 more right now. Here, the people want to be heard. Draymond opting in, says, let's ride. Yeah, we'll see. I know he said he's not retiring, but I think it's still best for everyone if Draymond opts out, stretches the money over 2 or 3 years, and lowers his salary cap number for next year to allow the Warriors more flexibility to look to add to the roster and duck the tax and be able to open up the non-taxpayer mid-level exception and all of that. I think Draymond is on the team next year, but I don't think it's necessarily good for anybody if he's a $27 million player for 2026-27. But if he is, again, he runs the risk of maybe being somebody that winds up getting thrown in a deal, even though that wouldn't necessarily be the Warriors' number one, first option to look at as it relates to him for next season. But we'll see. I think there's 2 months, really, actually 2.5 months until Draymond has to make a decision on whether he's going to, opt in or opt out. Let's roll through Max. Congrats to Dylan Brooks for not being eliminated by the Warriors for the first time in his career. He gets some revenge tonight, to be sure. 22 with Memphis, 25 with Houston, obviously last year, and he gets to move on against the Warriors after the Warriors had knocked him out a couple of times there. And we'll see what happens moving forward. I actually, people are going to hate me for saying this. I actually like Dylan Brooks as a player. I like him. Does he do some dumb stuff? Yes. Does he do some dirty or borderline dirty stuff? Yes. But I actually, as a player, I like him. I think he's good for the game. I think he's a winning culture player, as I've said, especially for teams that have been bad. I mean, he's on Memphis when Memphis goes from bad to good. He's on Houston when Houston goes from bad to good. He's on Phoenix when Phoenix goes from bad to good. Like that's not nothing. That's not nothing. So, all right, come at me, chat. Come at me, chat, for saying I like Dylan. Yeah, I said it. I like Dylan Brooks. I can take the heat. But I certainly understand where Warrior fans don't. And yes, Max, congratulations to him for moving on. All right, let's do 2 more. Grateful for Wednesday's performance, writes Rusty Nail. I didn't see that coming. Thanks for clipping, Clippers. Yeah, and now maybe you can go get Kawhi. I kid. But yeah, Wednesday is one that will be a memory, I think, longer than people would anticipate. And our final one here before we take our basically our first time out. We've gone 90 minutes commercial free here after our little technical snafu to begin the show. So we appreciate it. We get the high pick, and that is good. You get at least 11. We'll say that you get at least 11. Somewhere in that range. Don't get yourself too worked into thinking it's going to be top 4 just because it worked out for Dallas and it worked out for Atlanta. If anything, you'd think it'd be less apt to happen a third straight year, basically, where a team that's close to having the odds that the Warriors do wind up, getting, not only into the top 4, but the number 1 pick as Atlanta did and as Dallas did last year. But you do know you've got at least 11 at that point. So, all right, one more. Andis, what's up, y'all? Dang, this sucks. It just couldn't get over the hump when they got within 5 and 8. Yeah, they fought. They made their runs to get back in. I mean, they got it from 18 down to 2 right before Jalen Green hit the wild 3-pointer there at the end of the half. And then, yeah, Phoenix pushes it up. Warriors cut into it, but the Warriors never really cut into it in any kind of a rhythm like they were able to cut into it with a rhythm that built as the game went on against the Clippers. There was never that offensive rhythm tonight, and that's where the game was different, and the Suns ultimately wound up having the advantage. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KMBR, if you want to jump in on the phone lines. More chats coming up as well. Warriors lose 111-96. Our sounds at Dubs OT straight ahead, too, as you listen to Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson, right here from Phoenix on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, back here, final segment, Dubs OT with JD. Warriors lose 111-96. Suns are on to the playoffs. Warriors season is over as they fail to make the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. They got to the second round last year. They got beat as the 10 seed in Sacramento going back in the play-in tournament 2 years ago. So this is now 2 of the last 3 years that the Warriors fail to make the playoffs. They finish with that 37-45 record and go 1-1 in the play-in tournament. All right, let's get to our sounds at Dubs OT. We're going to hear from the 3 people that we need to hear from right now tonight in the aftermath of the Warriors season ending. We're going to hear from Steve Kerr on his future. We're going to hear from Draymond Green addressing his past, present, and future, and then obviously from Steph Curry as well here as he talks about the Warriors standards and just kind of where things go into what will be truly a critical and in many ways final offseason attempt with Steph Curry only having the 1 year left on his contract now for 26 and 27. So let's get to Steve first and foremost here, as we often do, addressing his future with the Warriors and just how he's going to look to evaluate whether or not he wants to return.
My plan is to take a little time and, take a week or two and eventually sit down and talk with Joe and Mike. We've always had a great partnership and collaboration and just see where they are. And I'll tell them where I am and we'll talk about what's next for the Warriors, what the plan is this offseason. And we will come to a collaborative decision on what's next. I don't know what's going to happen. I still love coaching, but I get it. These jobs all have an expiration date. There's a run that happens, and when the run ends, sometimes it's time for new blood and new ideas and all that. And if that's the case, then I will be just nothing but grateful for the most amazing opportunity any person could have to coach this franchise in front of our fans in the Bay and to coach Steph Curry, to coach Dre, the whole group. So it may still go on. It may not. I don't know at this point, but we all need to step away a little bit and then reconvene.
All right. So interesting stuff there. And Kyle, I want to bring you in. I mean, the things that stood out to me, take some time. I mean, first and foremost, we were discussing that with Danny, take some time to kind of get away from it a little bit, clear the head. Collaborative decision on what's next was an interesting one. Get with Mike Dunleavy, get with Joe Lacob, and make the decision as to what the goals are going to be for next season. That to me was in some way the most interesting part because it sort of left the door open to Steve maybe not fully believing that or wanting to ensure that everybody has the same goals and the same vision, which is something that has been in recent years questioned. Does ownership have the same goals as Steve, as Steph, as Draymond, as Dunleavy? And so that whole collaborative discussion and then just discussing, the future and what they want to accomplish. And I think that's as much, how do you handle the draft pick, the type of player you pick if you end up keeping the draft pick, the types of players you look to go after in free agency, the types of players you look to prioritize keeping, certain roles for certain players, what works, what doesn't. There are a lot of things the Warriors have attempted to do here these last 4 years that some have worked swimmingly, some have not worked at all. I don't know. It's interesting. There is definitely more to what's going on here, I feel, Kyle, than meets the eye. To me, it is not just as simple as Steve may feel a little burned out, but wants to clear his head, recharge a little bit. To me, there is more about the collective being on the same page that's a bigger part of this thing. And whether Joe Lacob, I think, believe that it's best for Steve to return. There's something going on there. And I'm sure it will be reported on in the coming days. But I'm just going to say it again. This, to me, goes beyond, Kyle. I want to get your take on it. Just Steve needing to recharge and refresh.
Yeah, I think it's how they, between ownership and Dunleavy, how they go about building this roster and building it to improve their odds for next year. Like, I think at this point, Steve and Steph and Draymond, they're all playing just for a chance at another title, right? And if ownership thinks that they should kind of ride into the sunset and not prioritize that, then I think Kerr would be out on that, and they would bring in someone new. But I think it goes back to, how does this roster look? And here's the other thing. It's hard to imagine Curry kind of finishing his Warriors tenure without Steve Kerr. Like I still think that's a big thing, a big factor on Kerr's plate when he makes this decision.
Although let's not forget, Steph Curry did start his Warriors tenure with Steve Kerr not as the head coach, and even started the trend of winning basketball with a different head coach. So it's not like it hasn't been the case before in his time in Golden State, but it definitely would be a game changer without a doubt. Kerr probably doesn't like how ownership handled the JK situation from his perspective. That from our buddy Diggum. And by the way, got a chance to meet Diggum tonight here in Phoenix. He was at the game, had some family with him. We took a photo. He was sitting in section 114 at Mortgage Matchup Center. And it was great to see him. Great to meet him. We've met up with Dig. I love getting on the road and seeing the people that help make this show truly go. We met Gene in Houston a couple of last year. Always love people coming out to Harmonic. So I'm glad you chimed into the chat here. I agree with you, Diggum. I think that's a big thing. Dom chimed in as well. I think Kerr's down if Lacob stays out of the draft. That is the read I hear and see, especially after talking with Steve. EB here, why does everybody have to know right now? Take a deep breath. I agree. I totally agree with that. But I will also say I think the Warriors are worse off if Steve Kerr's not the head coach, even if it would only be, let's say, for one more year. All right, let's get to our next clip. And this is actually from what was kind of the most viral Warrior moment of the night. No, not Draymond Green getting ejected in the closing seconds and pumping up the crowd that was giving it to him as he was going to the locker room. But the Warriors huddle, this via the Amazon Prime video feed, the Warriors huddle with Steph, Draymond, and Steve at the end of the game. A lot of people were wondering what was said there. Well, here was Amazon Prime video and the audio from the little huddle up late in the game.
I don't know what's going to happen next, but I love you guys to death, and thank you. I appreciate you.
So there you go. short and sweet and to the point. And there is a genuine, I don't know, to this thing that I think is more profound than I would have expected. And remember, I've kind of gone back and forth on this thing through the months. Like there was a point, in January, February, where I thought, and I said on the air and on the YouTube stream, that I thought it was more likely that Steve would not return at that point than return. I thought, Kuminga being traded maybe helped flip that back the other way. But I just wonder what went down, with relation to that situation specifically. And I'm not reporting this, I'm just speculating. I'm wondering, well, we do need that time to, I think, let everything breathe, and then we can come back to it. But I'm wondering if words were spoken that would be hard to undo. And I think, you all at times get that argument where things are said. And I know they've had a great relationship for a long time, but it just feels like there's something that hasn't been acknowledged to this point or reported on that's sort of hanging in the balance here behind the scenes. And I would imagine that that's probably going to come out at some point. Maybe it comes out after Steve signs. Maybe it comes out in a report, legitimizing the fact that Steve may not return. And maybe it comes out after he returns as to the reasons why maybe he was considering not wanting to come back. But this thing is definitely not a foregone conclusion that he's going to be the head coach of the Warriors next year. All right, let's hear a couple. One, Draymond Green, talking about his tenure now with the Warriors, the only team he's played for his entire career, and also addressing his own future and Steve Kerr's future.
One of the biggest blessings as far as my career has gone is being able to be in one place. Had the same coach for 12 years. Obviously, Coach Jackson for 2. But I'm not really someone who likes things to change. I like pretty vanilla status quo. Keep things the same. And so to have the situation that I've had has been incredible for me because I just don't deal with change well. I don't love it. So, no, I don't want to think about that. I hope that's not the case. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and again, I think adding there, Kyle, to the unknown of what's going to happen doesn't do. And we always talk about this as it relates to Steph and wanting Steve to be back, but let's also acknowledge the other part of the equation, Kyle, which is for as much as Draymond can lose his ish and fly off the handle and put himself in some of those positions where he hurts the team with some of the emotion that he shows. But Steve, for their feuds through the years, has been able to keep him under wraps and controlled because of the respect level that Draymond has for Steve. You take Steve away, bring somebody else in that maybe Draymond does not have the relationship with, that at the level that he has shared with Steve Kerr. And that can be a game changer potentially in the negative, even in the short term, if it's only going to be a 1 or a 2 year proposition. So we focus on Steph a lot, Kyle, but Draymond is also part of, the reason why you would want Steve to come back for as long as he's going to be around, because he's had the ability to kind of keep him under control more than you would think others might.
Oh, no doubt. And I go back to that one kind of verbal altercation they had on the bench where Draymond just removed himself from the situation and went to the locker room, I believe. But I think there is a respect there. I also think that, Draymond has been brought up in trade conversations, at least within the chat and the show. And it's just like, well, if he went to a team that he did not necessarily want to play for, would he even play? But right. So,
No
but at least with the Warriors, like Steve Kerr does bring out the best in Draymond.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that has to be factored in no matter what eventually happens. All right, let's hear two from Steph, and then we will wrap it up with our final round of chats here on Dubs OT, and we'll call it a season. We'll call it a season here on the sports leader, and reconvene to the offseason. Try to let everybody know when they can hear. Kyle and I, we're going to be doing some shows here as big news breaks, some YouTube streams as well. So we'll keep everybody posted on that, and keep it locked on the social media tip as well. Things around the lottery, things around the draft, things around breaking news will be here for you on the sports leader. All right, let's hear from Steph on the Warriors standard. And also, what they have to do to get back to being able to achieve that standard.
I've only been in one locker room for the last 17 years, and before you win the title, there was only like those first 2 years, like you're building, the foundation for what a championship team looks like, even though you had no idea what that really meant. Then you accomplish it, and then everything else is based off of that. And it's been that way since 2015. So I think we can reshape the narrative, like knowing the back of our mind, like that is the ultimate goal, but we have to get back to the basics of what makes a good basketball team, a competitive basketball team every single night. Understand realize how hard it is to win in this league, but can we rethink, how we do things with the foundation that we've established? We don't have to keep, saying championship every day, even though we've experienced that. Can we just build the foundation again with what this team needs to do, with the way that the game is played now, how fast it is, how young and athletic it is, all of those things. We have to kind of put everything on the drawing board to get back to, just being competitive every single night.
Very reasonable answer there from Steph Curry. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be about a championship, even though that's the standard, but also adapting and evolving as to what the NBA looks like. And I think that's been something that set the Warriors back at different points, has been the inability to adapt. And I think that's also going to be a part of those conversations that Steve Kerr has with Mike Dunleavy and Joe Lacob. Like, is he the best coach moving forward to continue to evolve? I mean, he mentions new ideas and philosophies and things like that. I wonder if Steve maybe would acknowledge the fact that he even would believe that he's been a little bit, too rigid in some of his thinking, or maybe he knows, certain ways to do certain things, and maybe others need to be brought in to try and go about doing things, differently, depending upon what the personnel is going to look like on this team moving forward. But I think an open-mindedness from the stars and from the head coach are going to have to be important, because I think at times there has been a rigidity to, not allowing for certain styles of player to be in the fold, when other teams very easily would have multiple types of, the ball dominant guard that can score but doesn't play a lot of defense and maybe doesn't have the highest basketball IQ all the time. But you need those guys to get, so find the balance of those types of players, on your roster versus the guys that help you in the regular season and guys that maybe help you more in the playoffs. So I think that's interesting to hear Steph even say that. And then Steph addressed the head coach, Steve Kerr, and Kerr's future, which obviously races to the top of the list here now as the Warriors season comes to an end.
You have to adapt and evolve for sure. I think coach is fully capable of doing that and thinking, outside the box as we go. But to his point, and your spirit has to be in it. Your mind has to be in it. Your coaching staff, like every dynamic has to be on that journey with you. So only he can answer that. I mean, it sounds like he's put a lot of thought into it, but we'll have those conversations where I get to kind of understand where his mindset is. 'Cause it's not like he was going to open up to me on that front over the last, or at any point during the season, because we still had a job to do.
Yeah, no, that's I think well said there by Steph as it relates to the future. I mean, he's going to have to look Steph in the eye. That's one thing that I think is going to be hard for Steve if he does decide to hang it up. Looking Steph in the eye and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to come back." Like that's going to be tough. And I know it was tough for Klay Thompson. It's been tough for other like that. That's going to be tough. I think so. Ultimately, does it happen? I would bet I would still bet slightly greater than 50% that Steve does come back. But again, I think the one thing that we're learning here in the immediate aftermath of the Warrior season, the post-mortem, it's definitely not a lock at the level that maybe we thought it would have been for Kerr to come back for next year. All right, let's spend the last 5-6 minutes here in the YouTube chat. We'll close it out with some of the best here to end the season. JD and Kyle, thanks for everything this season. Right, Steve's 700. Will there be a just dubs before the draft lottery? We're going to do one tomorrow. Are we going to? Well, actually, I should ask you, Kyle. Are we going to do one tomorrow? Do you want to do one tomorrow?
Yeah.
We said we were going to if they had lost on Wednesday. And then we said that we were not going to if they won tonight, because obviously I'd be flying to Oklahoma City if that had been the case, but I'm not going to be flying to Oklahoma City now, obviously. So we probably should do one tomorrow.
No doubt. And I believe that we would be YouTube only, right?
Yes, we would
That's
be
right.
YouTube only tomorrow. So be YouTube only tomorrow. I would say probably 11 o'clock tomorrow. I know we have been going. We could do 10. Do you want to do? We could probably do 10. Let's do 10.
Let's do 10.
Let's do 10. Let's do 10 tomorrow, and we'll see how far we want to go. We'll go an hour. We'll go 90 minutes. We'll go as long as we want. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we will. In the aftermath, give everybody the opportunity to kind of sort through. There will be a just dubs before the lottery for sure. And again, anytime there's any kind of breaking news, we'll go live and we'll podcast about it. If not, set up some certain nights to be on KMBR. Obviously, I'm going to be primarily still in for Papa. We've got 49er draft coverage coming up, so we're going to be keeping an eye on all of it here moving forward. But no, Kyle, we're going to be doing a lot of good stuff throughout the offseason. So yeah, just stay tuned. Set the button to where when we go live. Follow at JD John Dickinson on the social media on X and on Instagram, and we'll try to let everybody know exactly when we go live here for our Dubs OT and our Just Dubs in the offseason. JD and Cal, thank you for a great season. Estimated Eyes. Yeah, we appreciate it. Again, you guys really, truly are the folks that make this go. Gentlemen, thank you for your dedication to the show. Y'all did a great job all season long. Beers on me if I ever bump into y'all at a bar. We'll come out to Harmonic Brewing. We'll have a beer out there at some point. I think we'll be out there for the draft, which will be fun in June, again, June 23rd. And we'll try to get out there for some Valkyries games as well, just to hang out and do some meet and greets with the people as we, pick some different times in the summer. That is one thing that I'm definitely going to try to do is keep things a lot more. We didn't keep it as interactive as we wanted to last offseason because the Warriors just couldn't do anything because of the whole Kuminga saga. And so they didn't make any moves till freaking training camp started. And it wound up really kind of making for a dull offseason. This offseason is not going to be dull. This offseason is going to be in some ways more interesting than a lot of a significant portion of the regular season this year after Jimmy and Steph went down here for the better part of what amounted to 2.5 in the last 3 months of the season. So a couple of more here. Diggum writing, again, great meeting you, JD. Great work, Kyle. Diggum, was a pleasure meeting you here in Phoenix tonight. And all the best to your family and everyone. And Diggum had the purple shirt, but they didn't make him put it on. So it wasn't like our buddy the other night in LA that they made him put the red shirt on, or he couldn't sit in the wall section. Diggum was like, "Nah, I'm wearing my Warrior shirt." And, maybe donated the Suns shirt to somebody else. Kyle, let's see. Thanks for another excellent year, JD and Kyle. Looking forward to some off-season shows. That from B's Knees. Again, really appreciate the kind words from everybody. Let's get to our final comment of the night for the 2025-26 season.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
JC Mack, JD don't need the extra underwear after all. No. That's right. I think I can't remember what I packed. I think I packed 4 nights worth. And what could have wound up being an 8 or a 9 night type of a deal. But you're right. I do not need them. I do not need them because there will be no Oklahoma City, and I will be able to get a fresh batch tomorrow when I get home. All right, that is going to do it for us. Again, join us tomorrow 10 until noon. We'll go live with Just Dubs. We'll recap the season. We'll get a chance to go through all the sound from tonight and everything. And look at some of the big offseason questions and potential free agents. We'll do kind of an offseason primer theme to that. I'll get back to the hotel here and sort through it. Big thanks to Kyle Haar. Kyle Haar is the GOAT. Missed a couple of games there for his vacation, and I don't think missed another game the rest of the year. I think Kyle did like every game except for the games where he was on vacation. And for that, we appreciate you, Kyle. I love you, brother. You've been a tremendous add to this show. And I hope we get the opportunity to continue to work together, not only in the offseason, but next season. I want to thank all the sound editors as well. Greg Silver and Mike Holler and Austin Scott, who does an unbelievable job out at the Warriors home games. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Say goodbye, Kyle.
Bye, chat.
Dubs OT with JD. We'll talk to you soon on the Sports Leader.